Okay, so they've reached the IP. They're turning directly at the target now. They're at low altitude, 1,000 feet AGL. Now, I wonder what they're going to do. Are they going to stay low, or are they going to pop up? So they're cruising Mach 0.7, 1,000 feet. And weapons away, and that's some hits close to the runway. I'm not seeing anything showing a direct hit with penetration. There we go, 20% penetration, 23. So at least 2 good solid hits on the runway. And that's kind of what I wanted these guys to do, specifically with the Mark 83. If you put, in this case, you know, what I would imagine would have happened here is that the fuse in the Mark 83 would have been sort of a delayed action fuse, say like a 60 millisecond delay, so that it impacts, and then after a small delay, it gives the bomb time to penetrate into the concrete on the runway a little bit and then explode. And I was just going for craters here. And just looking at this picture, just for a wild guess, what is that? It's a fuzzy 55 initiator, so I think it is. That's what it looks like from a long ways away. So it'll be like an FME 152 fuse in the tail, and it looks like it just has a possibly a nose plug in the nose, which again is what I would want in the nose of Mark 83 if I were trying to crater a runway. So nose plug in the nose, FME 152 set for a delay in the tail. You can see the little panel right there. That's where you would go to get access to the fuse and be able to, just with a little screwdriver, just turn a dial to the different fuse settings. And then the initiator right here that you see in the charging well on the bomb body itself, this pops up on release and provides electrical power to the fuse. And the electrical power going to the fuse is what powers it and allows it to arm. So, okay, yeah, that's good strike on that one. I've still got my F-104 flying in circles. Okay, jammers, RTB. I thought I had done that before, but yeah, definitely RTB. And let me get these 2 jammers, RTB, and zoom out. Now it looks like the fighters that ran out of fuel first are already back to base. I've got my strike aircraft up here returning to base. I've got my Ginas that went up there to the attack to the north returning to base. Plenty of fuel left. Well, some fuel left. I don't know, I'm confused now as to why. I know it had to have had something to do with the fuel load and the range on these aircraft as to why they didn't get airborne, but oh, you know what it was? I assigned these as a seed, and that defaults it to a higher altitude and better fuel performance. These were assigned to a strike, so it took a little bit of a more pessimistic view of the fuel load. That's why these Ginas got airborne and made it, and these Ginas didn't get airborne. That makes more sense now. Now that I thought about that for a little bit. Okay, now all I can really do now is kick in some time acceleration. I don't know if this is going to resolve itself. One of these is going to run out of fuel eventually. I'm surprised they haven't already, so I'm just going to let this play out. Let me plug in time acceleration, get all of the forces back to base, and go from there. Okay, so, yeah, they took out, finally got a Sidewinder shot on that MiG. Okay, let me, before you do anything stupid, go to, yeah, RTB. Yeah, you were heading back over there to the base, although there are no threats there other than the AAA at this point, and the runway is shut down, so they're not getting anything airborne, and the runway up here is shut down, so they're not getting anything airborne, so that's about as good a resolution as I could have on this. I lost a lot of fighters. We'll have to see what kind of a ratio we got on that, if we lost a disproportionate amount compared to the Albanians. So 50 minutes to go in the scenario. I'm just going to let the time acceleration play out, and we'll get a evaluation of our performance here momentarily. Okay, the scenario is concluded. You will now be presented with an evaluation of your performance. Triumph. It didn't seem like much of a triumph. 500 is my total score, losses and expenditures. So on the Albanian side, they lost 9 aircraft total, 5 F-7 fish beds, 4 F-6 farmers. I took out 2 aircraft parking spots, I took out a runway access point, 6 SA-2 launchers, as well as a chop rest and a gin sling, the tracking and search and tracking radar for the SA-2, or HQ-2 in this case. They expended 6 HQ-2s, 6 PL-2s or AA-2s, some 30mm cannon and some 37mm. 30mm off of the F-7 MiG-21 counterpart, and 37mm off of the MiG-19 or F-6 counterpart. Our losses, 4 F-104s and a Gina, with expenditures of a lot of bombs and missiles. So 5 to 9 on the ratio. You know, more or less a 2-to-1 exchange there for fighter to fighter. Not as good as I was expecting, but I feel like I could have done a little bit better. F-104 versus F-6, F-7. We definitely had the advantage in that case as far as missile capability. I had the semi-active guided or semi-active radar guided missiles. They did not. All they had were heat seekers, but once we got in close, the F-7s and the F-6s were able to get in there and take some of our aircraft out, so that's good enough. I mean, that's not bad. The missions were flown and executed about as closely as I had planned as I've ever managed. It's kind of hard to manage strike packages and get the time on targets right and the correct spacing between all the support elements. Like, for example, I would have preferred to have my ECM jamming aircraft on station a little bit earlier. And I think I noted down south, I would have preferred maybe a little bit less separation between my seed aircraft and my strike aircraft, north and south. So instead of, 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 45 seconds to a minute was probably a little bit more of what I was shooting for. It just didn't work out that way. And one thing that it's easy, at least easy for me to forget, is that you always have the option just to abort the mission. I could have seen that I had more aircraft getting airborne than I thought I would up there to the north, and at that point just had everything just turn tail and head back to Italy, try again in the afternoon, try again the next day or the next week. You don't have to just go in there and execute the mission, and that's something that for me, just coming from a flight simming background, is kind of hard to do. You generally fly a mission you're presented with in a flight sim no matter what. Whereas right here, I mean, you're in charge of everything. I mean, you make everything happen, you do all the planning, it's your mission, and you don't have to necessarily press on unless you really want to. So that was an option. I mean, I think I, in real time, made about as good a call as I could have. If I wanted these runways to get shut down, I was going to lose some aircraft, I think, no matter what, considering the amount that got airborne from the north airfield, that Jader Zardima airfield. I didn't have as many aircraft get airborne from down south, which is the opposite of what I would have expected. I mean, the Berat Skukova airfield looked like the more built up. It looked like it would have been the more active of the airfields, but I only saw 2 aircraft get airborne. There could have been a couple more, but I only saw 2 get airborne from Berat, and they just headed north and weren't a factor at all for my strike package coming in from the south. But all in all, I mean, what can I say? It was a good mission. It was a good, fun mission. I didn't feel like it was too easy. I didn't feel like it was too hard, and I feel like I could fly this again and do it 20 different ways. It's interesting setup. But I'll tell you what, that's going to do it for this scenario. I really hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to fly and to put together, and I'll be back very soon with another scenario in command. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.